guys, welcome to another episode of TLG Vlogs, and today we're going to talk about how the media doesn't want you to buy a house right now. Come inside with me, I'm going to give you guys some tips. Okay, so the current real estate environment has definitely shifted a little bit, and I think it would be fair to say in a lot of different markets we're seeing a lesser buyer circulation, and a lot would argue that a lot of this has to do with what's going on in the news and interest rates being the main topic of conversation. Really something to consider in these type of times is think about the last 3 years. Think about how real estate's been on the up and up, and in almost every scenario we're seeing price war situations where listing prices are going 5, 10, 15, 20% above. And in that time, people were locking in interest rates in the low 2% or high 2%, and now we're looking at almost 7%, 8% in some scenarios. And I could totally see why monthly payment-wise, somebody would be less cautious, or more cautious, I'd say, to buy a house right now. Something to consider for the first time in probably this 3-year period, you have the actual ability to maybe get a house at listing price or 3 or 5%, maybe even below that price because there's less buyer circulation. Something to consider that I would say is don't let the media scare you on this topic. Something to consider is if you're looking at a house, let's say that's $600,000, and 2 years ago you had to pay $30,000 or $60,000 more on that list price, right? Basing it off a 5% increase or a 10% increase, which has been relevant here in New Jersey and Bergen County, you now have the ability to get the house at $600,000. You're getting it at the price. So if you're paying, let's say, $600 more or $500 more on a monthly payment, over the course of a year, you might pay $5,000 more or $6,000 more. Over the course of 2 years, you might even pay $12,000 more, but you're purchasing the house now for $30,000 or $60,000 less. So something to consider when doing your research on this. All right, so we are at our final walkthrough right now. We have a closing. What a better place to kind of bring another topic of this video, New York state of mind, talking about real estate, one of the biggest real estate markets in the country right behind us here. Off the topic of interest rates and the media not wanting you to purchase housing right now. I would say, off of what we were just discussing downstairs, the big takeaway that you have to consider is you can never renegotiate the price. If you're buying a house at a certain price, you're fixed into that no matter what. So real estate sometimes can tend to be difficult because unlike any other investments, they're actually a little bit harder to unload. So it's something to take into account that if you're paying 10, 15, 20% more, like I said downstairs, on a purchase price, but now, if you look at even the $1 million products where you could be saving $100,000 or $150,000 on pricing now that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to do 2 years ago, you can always renegotiate that interest rate. So I feel like that's not talked about enough. I feel like a lot of people say, you're not married to the rate, you date the rate, you marry the house. I think there's truth to that, and it's important to become educated on this because I really believe that the media is able to control so much of what happens in the world, whether it's the money market, whether it's the real estate market, whatever it may be, and you really have to consider the long-term investment. Look at an amortization chart. Consider, okay, I'm paying 7.5% or 8% now, but if you're doing that for the next 3 years, financially, what does that look like? And that is really, really important, is doing your education and doing your research. Okay, so how do we tie all of this in? You're a seller and you're watching this video and you might be saying to yourself, well, where does that leave me, right? What is the price of my home worth today? And a lot of videos like this one that we're making right now, whether you're seeing it on TikTok or Instagram or the news, are all talking about the declining real estate market. Something to consider psychologically is the market from early 2020 to 2023, where we are now, has appreciated between 20 to 30%. In some cases, 30% or more, 40%. It really depends on where you are and what the product exists. Now, if you're coming on the market today, I would say in most situations, it's uncommon to expect what we've seen for the last 2-3 years, meaning you're putting your home on at X and you're expecting a 3, 5, 10% price increase situation because you're hoping to be the next comp, right? You're hoping to be the new market. So now we're seeing houses sell closer to the list price or maybe even slightly above, but you're still way above the curve, right? You've appreciated so much in the last couple of years, in most cases 5-10% more than it normally should have, based on a 3% appreciation. I don't think it's a negative thing. I still think your pricing is still premium, and we haven't price reset to where we were in 2019. I also do believe that next year the rates should come down. Rocket Mortgage predicts rates to be at 4% next year by the end of 2024, which would be a big, buyer surplus coming into the market if that is the case. But you still have a very low inventory market on your side. We're still seeing a lot of great sales happening in the market, and I think the real estate market is still incredibly strong and it's still in a really, really good time to sell. And thank you guys so much for watching another episode of TLG Vlogs. If you like this content, you find it valuable, you want to see more of it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next week.